The first fear of most people is speaking in front of an audience, public speaking. I didn't know that. The second fear is the fear of death or dying, which a guy pointed out to me one time means that when you go to a funeral, you'd rather be in the coffin than have to deliver the eulogy. And I find that hard to believe. But it's not so difficult when I get a chance to speak in front of a group of Bible-clinging, gun-toting, redneck-rivaled because I know I'm among friends. The topic for the evening is, I want to take a moment to introduce the candidate running against Sander Levin, District 9, the new district that was created out of whatever it was they created it out of. Don Bolaric is here. I think he's staying. Where are you, Don? There's Don Bolaric. And what we're going to be doing tonight for just a few minutes is talking about Agenda 21, which is kind of a diversion from what we really need to be thinking about, which is what we're going to do to defeat this guy come November. And we're going to talk a little bit about that at the end. So please consider this to be kind of a diversion from our real purpose, and it's becoming even more and more of a purpose every day. I don't know how many of you saw the UN speech today, but it was an embarrassment to any good red-blooded American. It is just not us, what this guy is putting forth to the rest of the world. And speaking of putting it forth to the rest of the world, Agenda 21 is not either. Agenda 21 is nothing mysterious. The name isn't even mysterious. It sounds secretive. All it means is Agenda for the 21st Century. That's where the name came from. It's a UN thing, and they've gotten it together since 1992, and we're a member. George H.W. Bush signed it. We're part of it, whether we like it or not. Now, how much we comply with it is all dependent on you, the people sitting right here in the audience, because in communities all over the country, people are standing up and rebelling on it. They recently had, in California of all places, where the people actually are starting to wake up, they recently had a fist fight develop over the proponents of Agenda 21, who happened to be seated in the audience, and the people who were there discussing why their city council was paying $1,200 a year for membership in the ICLEI. What's the ICLEI? Anybody know? Some people do. The ICLEI is the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. Isn't that fun? It's all based on carbon footprint. It's all based on global warming, and it's all based on taking your freedoms away. Now, some of what I say tonight is going to be a little bit frightening and a little bit out there, and you're going to think I'm out of my mind, but I'm not taking this from what I say. This is what they say. And here's what it was founded on. You'll pardon me, but excuse me, talking all day. Oh, speaking of talking all day. I do a show on Radio 1400, The Patriot. It's on at 6 o'clock every night. Goes from 6 to 7. Thank you. With your support, it'll go from 5 to 7. And it's all dependent on the audience, so keep those cards and letters coming. But we are sponsored by It's My Michigan. If it weren't for It's My Michigan, the show would not be on the air. I also work for It's My Michigan. It is my passion. I was leaving WJR for it anyway, and they just hastened the process. Thanks to them, I'm now their statewide sales director. And I would ask for anybody in the audience who wonders what It's My Michigan is, go to itsmymichigan.com, look it up, and join. You're supporting the radio show, and you're supporting Michigan by doing it. And basically, it'll save you somewhere between $300 and $500 the first year you're in it, and it'll cost you 20 bucks to join. And that's really all I need to say. But go to itsmymichigan.com. There's my commercial for the night. Maurice Strong is the former UN Secretary General. He's an oil billionaire. He's got his, but here's what he says about yours. This is how Agenda 21 was founded. And I have to read this. I don't like to do this, but I can't remember all this stuff, so here it is. Land, because of its unique nature and the crucial role it plays in human settlements, cannot be treated as an ordinary asset controlled by individuals and subject to the pressures and inefficiencies of the market. Private land ownership is also a principal instrument of accumulation and concentration of wealth, and therefore contributes to social injustice. If unchecked, it may become a major obstacle in the planning and implementation of development schemes. Social justice, urban renewal and development, the provision of decent dwellings and healthy conditions for the people can only be achieved if land is used in the interests of society as a whole. That's what we're dealing with. How many have heard the term communitarianism? Not very many of you. It is the same thing as what Maurice Strong said. It is what Agenda 21 is based on. Advocates of Agenda 21 view the population of the earth as they view locusts. We are an infestation to be controlled and compelled into living in places where they want us, traveling to places the way they want us, when they want us to, if they want us to. I offer as proof some of the land that has been acquired recently by various government organizations. I'm sure you all know that by the virtue of the Constitution, federal ownership of land is absolutely illegal. It shouldn't be there. Federal government should not own as much land as it does, and it certainly shouldn't throw people off that land. It's going on right now. Local governments are doing it too. The Florida Greenways Project confiscated, and again I have to look at this to remember it, 3 million acres of private land in the Everglades. Well, who's going to miss it? The alligators? No. The people? No, they had to throw a few Seminoles off and a few others, but that was it. But now there are no people on that land. The federal government has about 3/4 of the United States in a map right now in the Agenda 21 file that will be off limits to humans completely if this thing goes through the way they want it to. 3/4 of the land in the United States of America off limits to humans. That means the farms. That means the parks. That means most of the suburban cities, like Troy, like Royal Oak, like St. Clair Shores, like the Points. These areas will be evacuated and bulldozed if Agenda 21 follows through to its course. Now, here's the problem. One of them. We are law-abiding people. If we're told to do something because it's the law, we'll probably do it. Can you imagine the people of India complying with laws like that? Or Russia? Or France? Or Africa? No, they won't comply. They'll have to be forced into it. We will do so willingly. And I'll go back to the Florida Greenways Project to tell you exactly what it means. The ICLEI has a guy by the name of Harvey Rubin. He is now the director of all of the executive committee of ICLEI in Florida. That means that the county governments of Dade, Broward, and I could go on and name off all those wonderful exotic counties that you know, they all answer to him. He can tell them what to do. He can tell them where to build. Similar thing happening in Santa Clara, California. In Santa Clara, California, they have a highway. Well, I'll liken it to the highway between here and Lansing, let's say. Now let's get closer, Ann Arbor. And it's a shambles between Santa Clara and some other city. And they need money to get it fixed up. So they applied for a federal grant of $40 million. They were going to match it with their local money. And guess what happened? Federal government turned them down. They aren't going to do that. However, the federal government gave them $201 million to lay some rail between the two cities and leave the road alone. What does that mean? There's no rail there now. They want high-speed rail. They want high-speed rail right here in Michigan, don't they? Didn't they try to start one, go from Woodward Avenue, out Woodward, all the way out to Royal Oak? And then they say, well, then we're going to continue it on, and we're going to continue it on. High-speed rail is the stepchild of Agenda 21. High-speed rail eventually, and I can read more to you, I'm not going to bore you with it, their idea, the ultimate idea, is to have all of us, remember the projects they tore down downtown? They want to put them back up. They want you in them, and me. Suburban living is unsustainable. Farmland is unsustainable. Golf courses are unsustainable. Private property in the suburbs is unsustainable. But they don't like unsustainable because you're getting wise to it. When you hear it, if you're like me, the hair goes up in the back of your neck. Anytime somebody says unsustainable, it makes me crazy. What that means is, if it's unsustainable, we're not sacrificing enough so that future people can have more. But have more with less, because there'll be less people. So they want us all stacked up in these communities, in the urban areas, connected by high-speed rail, using their permission to go from spot to spot. That's their dream. Does that sound really far-fetched? Let me read you some. Pardon me? Well, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. Oh, by the way, I tried to get you some material for the ICLEI. I wanted to pass it out tonight. I was going to put it up here on the slides. So I went to the ICLEI website, and I started looking around, and I found something called the Green Building Decision Tool, being used right here in Royal Oak right now. The Green Building Decision Tool. You go to them and you want to build something, that's fine. Here's the list of criteria that you have to follow. I tried to print it out. I have a pretty sophisticated computer. I've got even more sophisticated at work. And when this first happened, it happened on my laptop, so I thought, well, it's just a laptop. So I went to my one at home. Same thing happened. I went to my one at work, and the same thing happened. I pulled up. Hope I still have it. Maybe I left it. I guess I didn't put it in here. I also had the listing of ICLI communities in Michigan. Came up the same way. So I have to tell you what they are, and I will in just a minute. Private property and freedom are inseparable. That's George Washington. He said that when they founded the country. Private property and freedom are the anathema to Agenda 21 and the ICLEI. Now, does anybody know who John Holdren is? Who is he? Somebody, I'm not trying to embarrass you, I just want to make sure.
Put something in the water to sterilize it so he can increase the population.
John Holdren, you've got it.
Also a czar right now.
Yes, he's the czar. He's the environmental czar right now. He is dictating policy in the Obama administration. A couple quick quotes from John Holdren. Adding a sterilant to drinking water or simple foods is a suggestion that seems to horrify people more than most proposals for involuntary fertility control. Involuntary fertility control. Remember what I said about locusts? we are considered to be locusts. There's something else from Involuntary Fertility Control. A program of sterilizing women after their second or third child, despite the relatively greater difficulty of the operation than vasectomy, might be easier to implement than trying to sterilize men. Quote from John Holdren. This is a paper that he wrote. It's in the file in the Environmental Office of the Obama administration. I don't want to go into the development of long-range sterilization methods for women. We've just eaten dinner. I will let you see this, and you, by the way, all I'm trying to do is pique your interest enough that you'll go do some research on this. It's going on. It's happening here. I keep bouncing back and forth because this file keeps growing, by the way. It has a life of its own. Tri-County Regional Planning Commission of Michigan got $3 million last year. Northwest Michigan Council of Governments, $660,000. Genesee County in Flint, Michigan. City of Kalamazoo, Michigan. Superior Watershed Partnership in Marquette. All of these are getting money from the ICLEI in pretty big amounts. Well, what do they use the money for? Well, let's read some more from John Holdren. What is happening right under our nose with our permission, except in some of these communities that are standing up to it. I urge you all to attend a council meeting. Get some copies of the paperwork at the council meeting for your city, for your suburb, and see if ICLEI appears there. If your community is giving money to the ICLEI in the form of dues, ask the question, who authorized this? Who said we had to be a member of this? Who authorized my tax dollars to go to this organization? That'll start a fight. And that's what you want to do. If some individuals contribute to general social deterioration by overproducing children, and if the need is compelling, they can be required by law to exercise reproductive responsibility, just as they can be required to exercise responsibility in their resource consumption patterns, providing they are not denied equal protection. And finally, from this John Holdren guy, in today's world, however, the number of children in a family is a matter of profound public concern. The law regulates other highly personal matters. For example, no one may lawfully have more than one wife. Why should they be allowed more than one child? This guy's serious. He is your environmental czar right now. He goes to UN ICLEI meetings and speaks for you. If you like, here's his picture. It's on the website, so you can put it up on a dartboard if you like. Pardon me? I also have a lot of papers here from the Urban Management Study, the Regional Highway Monitoring System that's going into play in Michigan right now, minutes from the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission that includes Oakland County. It's all around us. And in the New York Times, a recent article, get this headline: Activists fight green projects, seeing UN plot. Well, that's how they write about it. But what they put in the article, oddly enough, is true. I'm going to open it up to questions in just a second. You can't see this, and I don't have it up on a slide. But what this is a picture. If you can see the dark spots on there, the dark red, those are areas where humans will be allowed to live if Agenda 21 goes through as planned. The rest of that area is unusable by humans. In other words, no human is allowed on it. You can't take a hike on it. You can't use it for any reason. It's land that is reserved. Pardon me?
No oil, no coal.
Nothing.
No nothing. Okay.
No development whatsoever. That is sustainable. Truly sustainable. Where's Dave? Can we run the... okay, what we're going to do now, before I open it up to questions, and I hope you have some.
Questions at the microphone.
Yeah, we'll do the questions at the mic, or if you like, we can get somebody to bring the mic around to you. I have here, this is like a minute and a half. This, by the way, quickly a preface to this. One of the pillars listed under restricting water use, additional taxing, seizure of private property, forbidding human access to land, manipulating transportation patterns, these are all stated in the Agenda 21 agenda, is, and along with higher gas prices and forced quotas on crop harvesting, and forced community involvement, meaning you will join this group, you will join that club, is a war on a generation of children. A war of on the education of a generation of children. Had I seen it 20 years ago, I would have laughed and thought it was science fiction. I want you to watch this with me.
Students construct their own understanding of reality and realize that objective reality is not knowable. So why bother? The truth is, the truth, or to keep men free, is being suppressed in order to prop up the attitude training agenda. And it moves on. This is our new math called connected mathematics. Standard 3 tells us that students learn that mathematics is man-made, that it is arbitrary, and good solutions are arrived at by consensus. Most of us assume 2 plus 2 is always going to equal 4. You're wrong. We might reach a new consensus. How well does it work? Well, they tell you in the teacher's guide in the back, it tells us that because the curriculum doesn't emphasize arithmetic computations done by hand, some students may not do as well on tests assessing computational skills. We believe such a trade-off in the favor of CMP is very much to the student's advantage in the world of work. Our children are mathematically illiterate on purpose. How do I know on purpose? Why isn't this just a basic bad idea? Because the Sustainable Development Plan tells us so. Generally, more highly educated people who have higher incomes consume more resources than poorly educated people who tend to have lower incomes. In this case, more education increases the threat to sustainability. Charlotte Iserby, I owe you an apology. I did not believe for the longest time it was a deliberate dumbing down. I thought that dumbing down was a natural consequence of a bad idea. Folks, it's deliberate. It's deliberate.
The sustainable globalist goal is the orchestration of a planned fall of American principles, values, and lifestyles. The effect on the average American will be devastating. With modernizing technology, the ordinary person will live without independence, privacy, or substantive rights.
Another press conference I attended was the ICLE group, the International Committee for Local Environmental Initiatives, that helps in the implementation of Agenda 21 in all of our local communities. And one of the speakers was Harvey Rubin, who happens to be the vice chair of ICLE. And I asked him about the correlative rights
The Florida guy.
derived from the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And that, of course, is your individual liberties, your private property, your freedom of speech. Asked about it clashing with Agenda 21. And you know what his response was? Individual rights must take a back seat to the collective.
Individual rights are subordinate to the collective. I hope I have given you a reason to go look it up. Most of you have computers, and there is a wealth of information. Beware false information. There's plenty of that, written by the ICLEI people to try to quell interest in people finding out exactly what this thing is all about. We are not the only ones that are having this foisted on us. It's happening all over Europe, especially in Sweden, and it's coming. They're not going to be stopped until somebody stands up and says no. We have a history in this country of standing up and saying no to things that don't make sense to us from a freedom standpoint. We did once in 1776. We're probably going to have to do it again, and we're probably going to have to do it again. One enemy will be Agenda 21, and the other, well, maybe it'll all be part of Agenda 21. But I urge you not to take your eye off the ball. Let's get rid of this guy in November, and let's make it a point to tell everybody we know, everything we know about Barack Obama and his compliance with everything that we hold, or lack of compliance with everything that we hold dear as red-blooded Americans. I thank you, and I'll take questions now. Yeah, if you can step up to the microphone, or you can yell it out and I'll repeat it.
First, I have two comments. One, is this on?
I don't think so.
I did see this 18 years ago in my daughter's school.
It's not on. Yeah, that's how we'll do
I
it.
did see this 18 years ago at my daughter's school. I was a lunch mother and I was very active in the school, in the classroom. And I started noticing the spelling wasn't being corrected. They threw out phonics and they went to word recognition. And I started wandering around the school asking all the parents, are you seeing these changes? People thought I was crazy. My husband was teaching at the YMCA soccer, and they removed trophies, score. They didn't want to hurt the kids' feelings. So all this was going around 18 years ago. In 1992, it was called Outcome-Based Education, which was Global 2000, School to Work 2000, and it was used by the Clintons, and it was, they used to run programs, the school, cream of the crop, and children were committing suicide. They were being examined during school, and that was your, it takes a village to raise a family. That was more, it takes a government. And I saw it, and I went to rallies, but everybody dropped it. People thought I was crazy. And then I watched Agenda 21, and the last word I heard was OBE. And I jumped from my chair and I said, oh my God, I wasn't crazy. Then you also have the eugenics. All that came from Margaret Sanger, and she was a communist. And that's who is behind the creation of Parent Planned abortion. And this is how bad it is. They use it to weed out the weak, the poor, and all that. My question to you is, I've had smart chip put on my water meter. What do I do now?
Punt.
What's that?
Punt.
Punch.
It's on there now. You're not going to get it off.
Break it.
You can break it.
Is there anything you could put around it, or?
No, no, and you'll be fined lots and lots of thousands of dollars when you break it. But
My water bill already went up $70.
yeah, well, that's part of the deal.
$170.
Yep. The smart meters, they're coming.
I was under 100, and now I'm 170.
Yeah, they want to each. Have you ever seen the Energy Star sticker on the appliances? You see it on refrigerators. You see it on washers and dryers. You see it on air conditioners, freezers, you name it. All that means is there's a chip in there. There's a chip in there that can be read by that smart meter. That's only there so they can give you accurate readings of how much you use. It's not there to tell you by a phone call, excuse me, you ran your dishwasher yesterday. What are you doing running it again today? Don't you know there's a fine for that? They can tell how much clothing you have in your washer through that smart meter because of the chip, and how much hot water you're using, when you're using your air conditioner. All this under the guise of peak loads and everything. And I've had argument after argument with my friends at DTE. I have good friends at DTE who believe in the thing, and I say bananas. I don't want it. I'm probably going to have to get it, but I don't want it. somebody will come up with a way to fight it. I'm not smart enough to have come up with it yet, but yeah.
I want to know.
Where's that microphone you had? Did you? Oh.
Morgan Schmidt.
I want to know in the Agenda 21, what are they planning to do to actually implicate it, and how are they going to get around it? As a veteran and civil service, I've been in civil service most of my career before I got hurt. We take oaths. We take oaths to uphold the Constitution. I'm a veteran and in civil service, police work, and everything else. I've taken oaths to uphold the Constitution and our rights and our civil liberties. How are they going to impose us to get us off of our land in the future when it goes that far? Obviously, this is being implemented. They have this plan. Do you know yet what they're going to do? Because I know as a veteran, all my fellow veterans and all my neighbors, all of us that are armed, I don't see, without some type of insurrection, how they're going to get us off. Dave, you know?
No, I'm on your side.
I just want to know what they're
No, and I'm on your side too, and I thank you for your service.
How are they going to do it?
You know, they're buying tons of ammo.
I don't know if you've been to Canada.
They don't have enough. They don't have enough to take over American people, period. There's
Well,
not enough military or police in this country.
I understand the way you feel, and I'm glad you feel that way. And I hope you're right. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do if you're like my brother-in-law, God bless him? He lives out in Colorado. And they said to him this time, this forest fire, this wildfire is going to burn your house down. You need to evacuate. He said, no, I don't think so. He says, I got my own well. I'm going to sit out here. I'm going to turn the hose on, and I'm going to soak that house down. I'm going to sit here till it burns me or burns the house. His neighbors moved out. His neighbor, his closest neighbor, is like half a mile away. That neighbor's house is no longer standing. Jim's is. The area all around him burned out, but his home is still standing. So what do if there's a runaway fire in a neighborhood? What do you do if you live in the country and your surroundings are going up in smoke? What do you do if you live in Florida? You know, quick, I'll get to your question. These environmental geniuses sit around and scratch their heads wondering why every once in a while Florida seems to go up in smoke. Well, it's because they don't let them cut the brush. So when they do get a fire that starts, I happened to be living in Jacksonville at the time of the last big one, and I got to tell you, it's frightening. When you walk out of your front door and you cannot see your mailbox, and it's this high off the ground is the only air that's there, and everything else is just smoke, and you can't see, and the smell, it's incredible. Well, there's a reason that it does that, and the Seminole Indians were smart enough to know it. And every 2 years, they burned Florida up on purpose. They did South Florida one year, and then they let it come back while they were burning North Florida. And they had no uncontrolled fires, because they just burned it up. But when Florida catches fire, it catches fire. And I don't care what they do. They can't stop it. All they can do is try to build, the cross ditches and so on and so forth. So burn you out? I don't know. I don't think it'll get to that. I think now that we're wise to it, there's enough of us that know and enough of us that will, every time you hear smart growth, that's the new euphemism, or the new, what do you call it? Whatever it is, it's the word they're using now instead of sustainable growth. Now they're calling it smart. And so when you hear smart, you'll know what it is. But that's just, go ahead. I'm sorry, I digress.
The one you mentioned about the chips in the appliances, the smart meters. We, in our city, we're in North Plain Woods, and we have a resolution that they cannot install those on our homes right now. And there's a tag you can get actually to hang on your home. And I thought maybe John and Pauline Holdren, H-O-L-E-T-O-N, maybe some of you know who they are. They have a website, w4ar.com or something like that, and their whole website is about the smart meters, Agenda 21, and we have to fight the smart meter.
If you could get that website to me sometime in the near future, I'll announce it on the radio show and make sure everybody in here knows about it. But I will tell you this, I don't know, they're having meetings somewhere in the Grosse Points. They're having meetings with DTE. They have a 30-year problem of service to the only area in the whole county that pays its bills. Wonder why that is. Is Woods part of that?
Yes, Woods is one
Yeah,
area.
definitely is a part of that. And you have a movement against smart meters too, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And quite a few communities already have a resolution or a moratorium.
I don't think she sees the connection here. Do you see the connection?
Yeah, we got it.
Anybody else have a question?
Step up. If you can step up, that'd be great.
By the way, I don't think I'm not smart enough to know all the answers, so.
I was just wondering about every single stoplight I drive, I have to stop it on the way to work and home has 4 different electronic things on it with a camera, square triangles, and all kinds of weird things. And I think, how much money is that costing the city? And where do we actually have that much to waste on watching you drive every?
I was hoping you weren't going to bring that up. It's a subject for another day, but I'll answer the question if you like. Has anybody ever watched the show Person of Interest? Do you know how true that is? They now proudly announce that they have ready to throw the switch in place a computerized system that will be able to track a license plate. For example, my license plate shows up at the bank too many times. That'll click a little alarm, and that'll click over to another little alarm. You know how computers work. And all of a sudden somewhere my name will come up, and all of a sudden somewhere that name will get stored over here, and then of course if it comes up again it'll bounce down through, it'll be stored over here, and eventually some human's going to have to make a decision. What is McCulloch doing at the bank so much? Well, I'm taking my deposits to the bank every day because I got to get rid of the cash. Oh, okay, that's fine. Could I see your deposit slips? Yeah, here they are, everything. Okay, fine, we'll see you later. That system is so scary that I don't even like to talk about it. But they'll be able to keep track of, through those cameras that you see as you drive to work, and everywhere else they've got them, once they throw that switch, it's like a giant maze, all come together, all created to keep it. And by the way, there's one central computer for all of it. One big central computer. Kind of like, what was that one in that movie? The Whopper in that movie. And it'll collect from regional sources. And it's going in place. It'll be in place by the end of the year.
I was in London, got a tour of Scotland Yard, being a police officer, they took me through. They have a computer room, a TV room in there. Hundreds of officers monitoring screens. They can watch a person into the London, follow them all the way through.
Oh yeah.
Count the cash in the
Great Britain London was the test market for this thing, for the company that makes this all the software that puts all this together. And it's nationwide now.
Hundreds of police officers just monitor those cameras.
Yeah.
And if you think it can't happen, just think about what cell phones can do now. 5 years ago, the meeting them, they actually pick up a cell phone, go, hamburger place, that was right where it's at. It's just happening.
You did say that that Grosse Point was a community that are fighting these smart tips. In
Grosse Point Woods.
Grosse Point Woods. Which other communities are fighting against this?
I don't know. It would be helpful to know.
Evil technology.
I don't know. I should. I thank you for the question. It's a good. I'll check that out.
Hi, John. I know you said that you wanted to get the bozo that's in Washington out. Now, what about the other bozo that's going to be running against him? I mean, most of us didn't want Mitt Romney. We wanted some other candidate, some other more conservative candidate. What does Mitt Romney believe about this organization, ICL, EU, or whatever?
Can I will give you my answer from the heart. All right? That's all I can do. Because
what good is it going to do if we get one bozo in to replace them. Just hear me out. Just hear me out. But George W. Bush or George H.W. Bush signed it in. A Republican.
That's right. But Clinton is the one
And Clinton's the globalist.
really got it.
All right, a little order. You asked me a question, you want me to answer it?
I'm sorry.
All right. We, as conservatives, are probably unhappy with the choice of Mitt Romney. I know as a real conservative, I'm not happy with the choice of Mitt Romney. I would personally have rather seen Rick Santorum or Ron Paul, or I was hoping and praying Newt Gingrich would get it because I thought Newt could go in and just tear Barack Obama apart in the debates, make him look silly. But it didn't happen. The machine worked. Mitt Romney is our candidate. Paul Ryan is our hope. And if we do anything to lessen the chance of Mitt Romney getting elected, we are doing a disservice to our country, to our children, to our families, and to the world. Without America, there is no freedom. And we are about to lose America. Pardon me, you hit a nerve.
Let me make a comment about Mitt Romney. We never know what a politician's going to do until they get in, right? We are the watchdogs because the media doesn't watch them, so we need to be the watchdogs. When Mitt Romney, God help him, he gets in there, we need to hold him to what he's going to say. Now, a Mormon, we know what Mormons are, they're survivalists. So therefore, I believe that Agenda 21 will not even happen with him because he is a landowner. They're very successful people, so I believe that Agenda 21 will not be a problem.
Thank you, Dave.
John, I'm glad this subject of Mitt Romney came up. You did a fascinating show, I remember, on WXYZ several years ago. A guy wrote a book about why so many companies hire Mormons to be either the presidents or their CEOs. That was one of the most fascinating shows I've ever heard. The reason that they said it was quite fascinating had to do with their morals, the way these people live. Do you remember that show that you did?
I remember the show, but I got to tell you that when I do interviews, I interviewed a guy today I've been trying to get for months, and I barely remember what he said. It's a thing that once that guest is there, but I remember the show quite well, and I remember how I was moved by what I heard. That the companies literally will fall all over themselves to find a Harvard-educated Mormon to take over their company. The one comment the guy made was that the Harvard-educated Mormon could take over as president of most companies, and it would take the average guy 20 years to learn what they got up here as a part of their upbringing. Because growing up is so much more than just going to school and being social and everything else. It's part of your, where it started. And with them, it starts way down here. Well, and so
pointed out the fact that these men are very moral people. You have no scandals within these companies. Nobody's ripping anybody off.
Typically. Let's put typically because they're
in terms of the Norman personality, and that was a fascinating thing about that. So I found that program to be very interesting.
Are you done? Any other questions? Just one last question from Mr. Villark, and then that exceeds our time.
John, could you explain a little bit about the IB schools that kind of go along with Agenda 21 as well? That's happening with our schools?
The what?
IB schools. Yes, the International Baccalaureate Schools. There's 76, I think, here in the state of Michigan already.
I don't want to comment on it, Don, because I don't know what you're talking about.
No problem. It's basically just another agenda where they're, instead of teaching American history and American values, they're going to start teaching globalist values, talk about the history of other countries instead of our forefathers and so on and so forth.
To make the students world citizens.
Yeah, so more world citizens.
Yeah, I don't know, but I know that's being built into the curriculum now for our public schools.
Yeah, we got 76.
76 of them. I'm going to check into it. Will you send me do you have my email address? Send me that, please. And, or you can give it to me when I talk to you about it. Don will be my guest on my radio show tomorrow at 6, by the way, if you would like to tune in. You guys are possibly the best audience I ever get to appear in front of. I've watched you grow. It does my heart good to see you grow. It does my heart good to see the arguing that goes on, so that I know that there's still, you know, we're all still, every one of us is on a different page of something. And that's what makes us human, but that's what makes us American. The fact that we can pull together to effect change. And how wonderful that is. And do it peacefully. And let's keep it up. Thank you very much.